Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Eat Well, Feel Well. I am Dr. Brittany Panico, board certified rheumatologist in Arizona. I practice in Gilbert, Arizona at Summit Rheumatology. And I am here to bring you recipes and ingredients and talk about anti-inflammatory eating and how we can start that. So Eat Well, Feel Well is a weekly video series highlighting nutritious ingredients and combining them in anti-inflammatory recipes to help you and your busy family eat well and feel well. So welcome back to another episode. And if you live in Arizona, we are in summer. I mean, we skip right over spring. We have about 2 weeks of nice kind of weather and then leading right into the heat. So one of my favorite things to do as the weather gets warm is make smoothies and just have ingredients for smoothies on hand, because it's a really easy way to get my kids to eat vegetables. I can hide them in smoothies. It's a great way to incorporate fruits. And it's just really refreshing. And you can combine a lot of ingredients into something that tastes really satisfying and delicious. And then also that can be a meal replacement or a substitute. You don't have to make a fancy lunch when you're busy in the summer. You can drink a smoothie with some protein powder and mix it with collagen or other vitamins and have that for breakfast. And you can even do that in the morning, have everything prepared ahead of time. I'll talk to you about that. And then throw it in your blender and blend it up, put it in your cup and drink it on the way to work. So that's something that I do also. And the goal of this is really just to get us thinking about ways that we can use food to nourish our bodies in a way that decreases inflammation. And what I mean by that is allowing nutrition to actually work for our body, not against our body. So the biggest thing that we see in the diet, our Western diet that we eat, is chemically processed foods that our gut microbiome doesn't really know what to do with. And they work really hard at processing those chemicals. And that in turn creates free radicals, things that promote very micro levels of inflammation. And this goes on and on and on every time we put a manufactured product into our body. And so over time, our gut bacteria become confused and not really well suited for the environment that processes nutrition and processes micronutrients to serve our body. So if you're somebody who is struggling with an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis or lupus, even somebody with gout can really benefit from transitioning to a more whole food anti-inflammatory diet. And it doesn't take very much to start. If you are somebody who has, another health condition, high blood pressure, kidney issues, I mean, really anything, anyone can benefit from this type of nutritional plan, not just people with rheumatologic conditions. And then also, I don't talk a lot about weight loss in my videos, but we do know that extra weight does promote inflammation, especially if you're carrying extra weight around the midsection. So by changing your diet and eating things that, again, are nutritious for your body can help you start to lose a little bit of weight. And that in turn cuts down on inflammation as well. So all of this works for every type of person. If you are needing to be gluten-free, I talk about ways to help, modify recipes to make that work for you. I've been seeing a lot of patients lately in my clinic who were testing for celiac and their antibodies are coming back positive. And it's really hard to just all of a sudden change your diet on a dime, right? To change it so quickly because you have this new diagnosis. But the benefits of doing that are so broad and magnified in the grand scheme of things that when you look at yourself, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, you are going to feel like a totally different person. So I really invite you into this space to start to incorporate some of these, the way of thinking about using ingredients to serve your body and decrease inflammation, and then ultimately help you feel better and have less pain, less joint stiffness, less, muscle aching, and just really start to enjoy the summer and enjoy the things that you want to do. So to kick it off, to talk about another smoothie recipe. So I've kind of been experimenting a lot with different flavors and just using different things that I have around the house. I talk a lot about recycling ingredients that you already have, that you already purchased. So my family, we made a smoothie just the other day that was strawberries, blueberries. We used chia seeds and coconut water. And I think there were a couple of pineapples tossed in there, maybe some extra watermelon, just scraps of fruit that we had left over, and just put it all in a blender, and it was really great. If you're using things like avocado to kind of thicken up the smoothie, that's a really great nutritious way to incorporate healthy fats into your diet as well. So if you're somebody who loves avocado toast, for example, and you're trying to decrease bread or refined carbohydrates, using an avocado in your smoothie is a great way to still get the benefits of that avocado, but not necessarily eating it on toast or bread. And one nice thing about avocados, that in case you don't are not aware, that you can actually cut them up and freeze them. So I buy them in a package that's already cut frozen pieces and keep that on hand in my freezer. But if you like to purchase them at the store and maybe they go ripe a little bit quicker than you anticipated using them, you can always cut them up and freeze them. You don't have to have the seed in that in there with them to keep it from turning brown. They should just freeze, and you can reuse them. Even if they're a little bit darker, you can still use them. If they're really slimy and mushy, then I would avoid that. But a nice, green plump avocado still is going to incorporate a lot of nutrition into your smoothie. So that's one idea. Another idea is using bananas. So if a banana is kind of, you've been eating them or you have a few left over, again, freeze them, cut them into smaller pieces and freeze them. Even if they're a little bit brownish, they still will taste great in your smoothie. So I do that. I keep a bag of frozen bananas in my freezer. And then, some of us have, if we're buying fruit trays or just sort of the variety packs at the grocery store or at Costco, and you have a couple extra pieces left over, freeze those in a bag. Just put everything in a bag and freeze it. And then that way you have it ready for a smoothie. And you don't necessarily have to add ice because your fruit is already frozen and cold. Another thing too, kind of going back to that fruit variety pack, if you purchase something and it tastes a little bit more bitter or it's not yet ripe. So if you're snacking on fruit and you don't necessarily like the bitterness or the tang of something that isn't ripe just yet, you don't necessarily have to waste it. You can keep it and freeze it and then add a little bit of either agave or honey to kind of sweeten up the smoothie, and it will taste as though that fruit was ripe. So that's one little hack that I do as well when my kids don't necessarily like the way something tastes because it's not quite, that really ripe fruit yet, is if they don't like it and it comes in a pack, then just freeze the pack and we'll use it for a smoothie later, and they'll actually never remember, never know. So that's a little trick. So one smoothie that I really enjoyed lately is something from, I use this book a lot, Giada's book, Eat Better, Feel Better. I think this book is just packed full of really innovative recipes and flavors, and Giada is very creative. So I love this cookbook, but she does a recipe for a coffee and spinach smoothie. At first I was a little bit unsure about this and then made it, and it is actually very tasty. And it gives you that kick from the coffee, and then there's actually cocoa nibs, or I used just chocolate chips in mine, and it was really good for something, if you need a little pick-me-up in the afternoon or even in the morning. this replaces your coffee on the way to work, I think it definitely will satisfy that caffeine kick that a lot of us need. So this smoothie is, I don't have a picture of me drinking it or me making it, but it is green. So it's a spinach smoothie. And then it'll have the little, you'll see the little flakes of the chocolate, either cocoa nibs or chocolate chips, and then the coffee is ground. So just be mindful of that, that you are actually drinking the ground coffee, but it still tastes very good. So in this recipe, it calls for a ripe banana. So we talked about bananas, either frozen or right off the counter. 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk. She has a recipe to make her own almond milk. I purchased mine, but you can use oat milk, you can use coconut milk. I think this is more of a nutty flavor in this recipe, but again, use what you have on hand. If you don't have almond milk and you're in the mood to have something like this, then make it with what you have. It's totally doable. 2 cups of baby spinach. I'm not sure if I talked in another smoothie recipe, but I leave the stems on when I make a smoothie. I don't pop them off, but if the stems are not appetizing to you, you can certainly just use the spinach leaves. 2 cups of ice. I don't really water down my smoothies. I think the ice is very helpful if you're using room temperature ingredients. So that's another reason that I freeze a lot of my things, is because I don't specifically like ice, ground ice in my smoothie. The sort of watery texture doesn't appeal to me, but if you use frozen fruit or frozen ingredients, you can cut back on the ice, or just use a little bit more liquid in your, whatever liquid you use for the smoothie. But if you're somebody who likes ice, then by all means. And then half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. That is going to add a little bit of a punch. So I definitely recommend that. I use a little bit more vanilla in my cooking and baking. I'm just kind of a vanilla person. So I use a little bit more than a teaspoon, but again, depending on your taste preference, if you like less, if you like more, if you like it more sweetened, again, you can do a splash of agave or honey in there with your vanilla. If you have, again, kind of a flavored syrup, like a vanilla coffee syrup that's sugar-free, mind you, we're trying to decrease processed sugars. So a syrup like that is fine too, as well. A pinch of salt, half of a ripe avocado. So if you are buying the packaged frozen avocado and trying to measure what a half of an avocado is, I just use a handful. That's kind of, how I measure it, because typically an avocado would fit in your hand, and so half of that is basically a handful. And then a tablespoon of finely ground espresso or coffee. So you can purchase the espresso, the ground espresso, and it's actually very finely ground. Ground coffee may be a little bit bigger of a grind if you just are purchasing it from the bag, but if you have a home grinder or do it, grind your beans at home, then you can set the dial to the finest grind. So that way you're not necessarily like biting into chunks of ground coffee. And then 1 tablespoon of cocoa nibs, and I used chocolate chips. So again, your preference. So the recipe says combine the banana, the milk, again, we're using whatever liquid you have, spinach, ice, vanilla, and salt in a blender, and then puree that for about a minute or until it's very smooth. Add the avocado, puree for another 30 seconds. This is going to thicken up the smoothie, okay? So if you find that it's too thick and your blender is getting stuck, then you're going to want to add a little bit more liquid. And then add coffee and cocoa nibs and pulse to combine. You're not really looking to grind the coffee specifically in the blender. You want it already ground by the time you put it in. So if you're finding, again, that you're really just kind of blending everything ad nauseum, you may need a little bit more liquid to thin that out. But overall, the texture of the coffee with the chocolate should be more of a fine grain than like a big chunk. And then this is essentially 2 servings. This recipe calls for 2 servings. So she says divide into 2 glasses and serve. So I really encourage you to try this. I will have the photo of the recipe in the comments. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I'll type this out as well. But I was hesitant at first. I wasn't so sure about spinach and coffee, but with the avocado and the banana, it's actually a really satisfying smoothie. So I encourage you to try it. Another smoothie idea that I have made lately is using, again, we talked about just recycling the things that you have. Mango is coming into season, so look out for things with mango. Kiwi is also really nice to add to your smoothies. It gives, again, more of that green color, but it's going to be sweet. So mixing that with fruit. And then watermelon. If you're a watermelon person, by all means, put that in with some of the ingredients that you have and blend that up. That's going to be a really great smoothie as well. This coffee smoothie in particular, I didn't really talk about extra things to add, but I tend to add chia seeds to my smoothies. Just again, it adds more fiber. Chia is an antioxidant, so that's going to help your body with digestion. And also the gelatin that forms from the seeds when they're immersed in water is going to help you feel fuller longer. So if you're looking to use smoothies as a meal replacement, one thing that a lot of people do comment on, and I myself experience it, if it's primarily just fruit and liquid, it's going to go through you pretty quick. So you're going to find that you may be hungry in a few hours. If you're looking for something more satisfying, again, using avocado, using things with fat, healthy fats is going to help slow your digestion down. And then adding things with fiber, so flax, chia, that will also help keep you feeling fuller longer. So you can add something like that. And then if you want to add protein powder, collagen powder, if you use a powdered multivitamin, by all means, throw a scoop of those things in there as well. Just experiment with the texture. So if you're somebody who is sensitive with certain textures, just be aware that the more of those powdery things that you use, the more frothy the smoothie is going to become. It's going to be sort of like a light kind of froth when it's all blended up. So that's something that I found when I was using collagen and protein powder together, is that it made it kind of almost like just like a soft kind of cloud texture, but with substance from the smoothie. So it was just a little bit different than, drinking specifically like a smoothie drink. It was thicker, but not heavy. It's light. So it's just a different texture, but there's nothing wrong with that at all. It just depends on what you like and what your preferences are. So I'm so glad that you joined me today. I hope you find this video helpful and just giving you ideas on how to make smoothies with what you have and innovative ways to think about ingredients. Again, who would have thought about combining spinach, banana, avocado, and coffee and chocolate chips? So enjoy and let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you have ideas for other recipes that you would like me to feature. I've had patients ask me for things like mac and cheese, so I will feature a mac and cheese recipe coming up soon. And I am open to suggestions and hope that you find this really helpful in your journey on transitioning to an anti-inflammatory diet. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy your week. And here we are getting into summer. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.